Hello, my name is Ernestine Collins. Welcome to Writer's Reading. This program is brought to you as a public service presentation by WPRG TV5, Harold, Kentucky. Today, I don't have a guest. Mrs. Imogen June Johnson was supposed to be on the show, but she couldn't make it, so you'll just have to put up with me today. I'm going to read a short story for you that I wrote a long time ago, probably when I was in college. It's called Strangers. I paused briefly on the front porch of the huge white Georgian mansion. It had been a long time since I had seen this old house, in which I had made many memories. Sherman had once stationed his troops here during the war between the states. It had been a strong fortress then, but now I noticed that it needed many repairs. Trees hovered over it and protected it from the view of passers-by. This, I knew, was as Father wanted it. He had never been a gregarious person. Father. Thinking of him made me shiver. The telegram had read simply, "I am dying. Come." So I had come. I knocked lightly on the door and was soon ushered into the spacious drawing room by a plump old lady who told me that she was Father's nurse. "How is Father?" I questioned her. "You'll see him soon," she responded coldly, and left me standing beside my suitcase. I removed my jacket and threw it across the back of a chair. Walking around the room, I found it almost as I had left it 8 years ago. The piano sat in front of the window. The television sat in a corner. Chairs were dispersed about the room. Father's desk still sat near the fireplace. Only one thing in the room had changed. Before I left home, there had been countless pictures of me all over the room, on the TV, on the piano, and especially on the mantel above the fireplace. Now the room was destitute of any pictures, except my mother's and younger brother's. I wasn't surprised. It was natural that Father would want to remove my pictures from his sight. After all, I had disgraced him. I kicked off my clogs and plopped onto the sofa. My jeans were a mess, and my thick brown hair, recently cut in a short shave, clung to the back of my neck. The room was almost as hot as the summer sun had been on my way over from the airport. I closed my eyes, and my mind rushed back to another summer that I had never been able to forget. I had just turned 17, and Andy had asked me to marry him. Everything was lovely for me. But then, just 3 days before my wedding, Mother and David, my younger brother, were killed instantly in an automobile crash. Their deaths were a great blow to me, but they especially affected Father. He took to his room, and my wedding to Andy was canceled. David was no longer alive to inherit Father's estate, and I could have it only if I remained unmarried. No one outside the family was going to take over the control of Father's house. By the time I got over the pain of Mother and David's deaths, so that I could search my heart to see which meant more to me, my father's love or Andy's, it was too late. Andy, whom I ultimately chose, informed me that he was leaving Waynesboro to embark on a career with the Army, of which I could not be a part. And Father, upon learning of my decision, promptly sent me penniless from his domain. I had rebelled against him, and I was no longer welcome here. I opened my eyes and ran my hand through my hair. It was ironic. 8 years ago, Father had said he never wanted to see my face again, and I had written him several letters during my years of absence, hoping to make peace with him. But he had never replied. Now, suddenly, he wanted me here. Was his approaching death to bring two people together that had been torn apart by the deaths of two others? As I put back on my clogs, a young man in a green shirt and beige pants entered the room. "Miss Crenna," he spoke. "Yes, sir." "Your father will see you now." I followed him through a dark hallway and up the winding staircase. We stopped at Father's door. "Don't be afraid," the young man whispered. He opened the door and we went inside. I was shocked when I saw Father. He looked much older than his 57 years. His thick gray hair was pushed back from his forehead. His face was deeply wrinkled, but I could still see the stern face that I remembered. He was heavier than I'd ever remembered seeing him. As I stood staring at him, he spoke. "Christina." His voice was weak. "Father?" That was all I could think to say. "Come and sit with me, Christina." I walked to the bed and sat on the edge of it. The young man stood at the foot of the big iron bed. Father took my hand and held it between his large, wrinkled ones. "Christina, I'm dying. I want to make my peace with you before I go. Father, let me speak my piece." His voice was gruff, and it frightened me. "I'm sorry for running you off. I'm sorry for treating you as if you weren't my child. Forgive me." The voice was devoid of emotion, and his eyes were gazing at the young man at the foot of the bed. He let my hand go and spoke again. "There," he spoke to the young man. "I've done it, Preacher Perry. I've done it, and you heard it. I asked for forgiveness." I turned and looked at the young man. His head was bowed. "Father," I whispered, "I can stay with you as long as you want me to." His eyes glared at me. "No," he refused. "You go on back home." "But I want to stay." "Well, I don't want you to," he bellowed. My heart began to pound. "Get on out now, Christina. I don't want you here. We've made our peace. I've asked for your forgiveness. Isn't that enough?" Tears began to stream down my face, and I ran from the room. The young preacher followed me. "Why did he do that to me, Mr. Perry?" I asked him. "He's trying to die right, without living right. It's a pity. He doesn't realize that death never changed anyone." And with that, the preacher left the house. I left Father's house and never went back. I merely sent flowers when he died. His nurse called me to say that he had requested I not be there. He left me nothing in his will. I hadn't expected anything. The new road built last year runs straight across the land where the house stood. Father wouldn't have liked that. He never did take to strangers. Now I'd like to sing a little song that I wrote called "Chameleon." "Chameleon, you slick-tongued lizard, don't come around here. You have one eye for her and one eye for me. Today you're brown, tomorrow green. Chameleon, don't come around here. I fell for you before I knew just what you were. You swung your tail and caught me in your hole, but now it's time to let me go. Chameleon, you slick-tongued lizard, don't come around here. You have one eye for her and one eye for me. Today you're brown, tomorrow green. Chameleon, don't come around here. Chameleon, don't come around here." I want to thank you for joining us today. Please be with us next week when our special guest will be David Deskins. I want to thank Dr. Don and WPRG for bringing us to you. Until next week, may God bless you.